Welcome to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Are you trying to master the game of life without success? There are secrets and strategies to living your best life. We'll share some of them with you on today's show. Take advantage of this series to become an expert at relationships. All relationships. It's time to live the life that you deserve to live. Now, here's your host, Sandra Reish.
Welcome to Straight Talk. Such an exciting topic today. I'm very excited actually about my guest and the topic. I have a lot to say about this topic myself, and I have someone on who I met very serendipitously, and I'm so excited to talk with him. He is fascinating. Let me just start by talking about what is our topic today. So we are going to talk about entrepreneurship, and I think that the twist here is we're going to talk with this brilliant guy about the psychology of being an entrepreneur. And people tell me all the time about, like when I opened a clinic, many of you know me as this person who runs the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression. My training was in psychology, certainly not in business. However, there is a business to even running a psychology clinic. So it's been a really interesting road for me, and I've really enjoyed both parts of it, the entrepreneur part and, of course, the psychology part. So I was extremely lucky. A couple of months ago, my path crossed with this very interesting man by the name of James Beach, or Jim Beach, as I call him. He has an amazing radio show called School for Startups. And he has started businesses and taught entrepreneurship around the world. He wrote a book called School for Startups that was published in June 2011. But let me just tell you this. At the age of 25, he started a company called the American Computer Experience and grew the company with no capital infusion to $12 million in annual revenue and to over 700 employees operating in 39 states and 3 countries. So, that I think speaks for itself. Talk about expertise. And he's taught entrepreneurship all over the place. And when we met, and this, I think, Jim, we're going to welcome you in a moment, but this is part of it, is that things happen for a reason. Because when I met Jim, I was on his show talking about anxiety videos, and he told me he used to live in Montreal when he was doing some business here, so we're going to get to that too. I personally want to say that every conversation I've had with Jim has been not only fascinating, but filled with a component of generosity, which I'm not an entrepreneur expert. I'm a psychology expert, but I think generosity is part of doing well. So we'll see if Jim agrees with me. But first, let's welcome him to the show. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my honor.
Well, we're really excited to have you. You've had a really interesting life, and you've done amazingly well. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is that you've also had difficulties. It hasn't been always a straight road. So let's go back to some of these hints I said, like how were you in Montreal? How did that happen? And how did you in any way build a company with 12 million in revenues? Like, hello, you're a young guy.
Yeah, I had a good run in the 20s. In my 20s, it was very successful. We had a summer camp company that grew into the world's largest children's education company. So in any way that we could separate parents from their money while taking care of their kids, we did. So we had large deals with companies like Disney where we would help them. They have their large training facility down in Orlando for softball tournaments and things like that, and we would help them manage the kids there. We also worked with the Boys and Girls Clubs all over the country. But then we also had summer camps all over the world, and one of those was at McGill in Montreal, and so that's how I was fortunate enough to spend some time there in Montreal. One of my favorite cities. I also went to college in Vermont, so we used to drive up to Montreal to go to the bars and get the good 6% liquor, beers and stuff like that too.
I might have served you in those bars. I'm sure I've told you I was a bartender for 22 years of my life. I might have been serving those drinks when you were coming up from Vermont. We used to always get Vermont kids in Montreal.
Yes. I imagine you were at a little bit higher quality joints than we were hanging out with.
Not sure.
We were at the lowest quality places that you could find in Canada, I imagine.
I don't know. We'll have to talk about that some point off the radio.
Yeah, let's do that off the record.
Okay. So tell me, Jim, when we talk about entrepreneurship, I think I know what we're talking about, but like for the average person, what is entrepreneurship? Like, what does it mean?
I think 99% of the world, if you were to ask them to play Family Feud, right, the top three answers on the board, what are they? And Steve Harvey would point to the big board behind him. I think that entrepreneurship is creative people, right, doing creative things. There's an element of creativity. There's certainly an element of risk. And there's certainly an element of passion, people doing what they love. And so something about those three things are the standard stereotypical definition of entrepreneurship. Creative people taking big risks, starting businesses that they're passionate about. That's your standard run-of-the-mill definition. And my thesis, my contention is that it's 100% wrong, that all three of those are wrong, that it's got it can have an element of creativity. It can be very risky. You can be passionate about it. But I think that for the man, woman sitting on the sofa saying, hey, I wish I were an entrepreneur, and for the average American, and I'm sure that this is true for Canadians as well, I don't think there's really any difference, 67% of Americans, so I'm going to include Canadians too, North Americans think that they would like to be an entrepreneur. And unfortunately, only about 11% of them are. So there's this huge 55% gap. People who want to be entrepreneurs, but remain sitting on the sofa for their entire life and afraid to start a business. And I think that we all know the reasons. Now's not the time for me to do that. My boys are about to go off to college, and so I can't take the risk right now. Or, when God throws that creativity lightning bolt at me, when I get my brilliant idea, oh boy, am I going to jump at it, and I'm going to go start the coolest business in the world. Or, when I discover what I'm really passionate about, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find something that I really love, and I'm going to run the greatest business ever when I figure out what I'm passionate about. And then they wake up at 77 years old, and they have a gold watch from their retirement party and have never done it. So these ideas, I think, are, though certainly understandable, it is what is holding Americans, Canadians, Europeans, Asians, everyone back from starting a business, and it's really sad to me. And so my sort of mission in life is to teach people that, creativity is awesome for the artist. Passion is wonderful for your religion and in the bedroom. Risk is awesome for the bungee jumper and the parachutist. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you do not need to worry about creativity. As a matter of fact, there's nothing wrong with copy borrowing and stealing someone else's idea. That, I can point to millions of businesses that are pure copies of something else. Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott, Days Inn, Comfort Inn, right? McDonald's, Hardee's, Burger King, In-N-Out Burger, right? There's nothing special about having a new idea. As a matter of fact, having a new idea can be very bad for your entrepreneurship. So I love creativity, but I don't want you to wait on creativity to start a business. I don't like risk. I'm never a fan of risk at all. And people are saying, I can't take that risk right now. I'm sorry, I forgot one great statistic that I want to throw in about creativity. According to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which is run by Babson University and the London School of Economics, 93% of businesses around the world are copies of an existing business. So the creativity piece is not required. There's nothing special about it. So anyway, on to risk. I understand that you don't want to risk a bunch of money. Well, I can point to someone who has started a business in every single industry who did it for under $5,000. As a matter of fact, most successful businesses are started with a bunch of money. I know that with my business, when I did get a bunch of money, at one point we raised several $1 million in venture capital. The first thing I did, and remember I was a boy in my 20s, was those laser lights that project your logo down onto the floor? They use them at the NBA games and stuff. Well, we went and bought 3 of those. And so what's the ROI on a laser logo projection system? It's exactly 0, right? But it was a really cool thing to have. And when you have money, I find that it actually is bad for your business. It allows you to ignore the problems with sales that you have. And so we could go into this in a lot of detail, but having money is not necessarily the panacea that people think it is. Having money can be very bad for your business. And so I like the person who starts with $500, $5,000. And in a minute, I'll tell you my story about Joey, my brother-in-law, one of my favorite stories. And passion as well. You know, the idea that, you have to love what you're doing. You have to love it and be passionate about it. Well, no, that's just not true. What I would propose instead is that passion for the process is enough. You don't have to love the purse that you're selling. As a matter of fact, I find it very strange if you love purses enough to call that a passion, right? You don't have to love the process of being an architect and the passion for the business. What about just the passion for the freedom that you have, the passion for the short commute that you have to your home office, the passion for doing whatever you want whenever you want, the passion for going to school at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to drive carpool because you can work until 9 o'clock at night? I'm not passionate about the thing. I'm passionate about the process. And so that's a very important mind shift that suggest, you know what, you can be an entrepreneur and not necessarily love the material thing that you are selling.
So, Jim, we're just about to go to break, but, one of the things that comes to mind very much as you're talking is something that it's funny because you're in the business of teaching people about being great entrepreneurs. I'm in the business of teaching people to be the best they can be psychologically. And there's a similarity I'm hearing, and it reminds me of the Nike slogan, the just do it. I heard a little bit of just do it in you from what you were saying, is that if we're waiting for the perfect moment and the perfect product, we're going to be waiting forever. I quite agree with you. It's taking an action plan. So I'm going to ask people while we go on the break to think about that. What's stopping them from taking that step? And when we're back from the break, we'll get some information from Jim on this just do it and how you do get yourself to take that step and that story you were referring to. We'll be right back on Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reish, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reish. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
A fresh look at today's health. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
Oh boy, it's going to be an exciting hour. I can see that there's so much to talk about. I always like to send out a special thank you to our sponsor, Spa Minari, and mention to you that if you're in the Montreal area and you want to give yourself a day of self-care and love, this is an amazing place to go. 514-695-5040. And Jim, they're really smart entrepreneurs because they're offering 15% off to anyone who mentions the word Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. So 514-695-5040, an amazing woman running spaminari.com. Okay, so right before the break, I was talking about the Just Do It concept. And it's funny because I just came back from leading the women's retreat that I do. And there was a lot of talk about a psychological concept which is studied, which is that motivation does not come before action. So for example, if you want to exercise in life and you're waiting for motivation, you're going to wait a long time. It's action before motivation. It's really not well known, but you have to take a step first. Now, Jim told me on the break that this has an entrepreneurial scientific name known as the corridor principle. Jim.
So again, imagine that you want to start a business, but you're waiting for some sort of inspiration. The corridor principle says this, that you start off life standing at the beginning of a long hallway, and the hallway has many doors off the right and off the left. And because of your perspective, because of where you are in your life, because of your past experiences, you cannot necessarily see into those rooms, right? You have to move down the pathway before you can see into the room on the right or on the left. And so what if the business that you are truly passionate about is in one of those rooms? And the only way you would have discovered that is if you started becoming an entrepreneur, you started getting out there in the community and being known as an entrepreneur, and someone comes up to you one day and says, hey, I really need help with this idea that I have. I would love for you to be my partner. And that's when you discover what your passion in life is. The idea is you can't discover the cool things down the pathway of life until you start moving down the pathway of life, because your perspective just isn't there yet. So one of the favorite stories I love to tell is my wife. My wife was not an entrepreneur. I challenged her to start a small business, and she did, and we can talk about that. It fulfills all of my principles. But the most important thing is that because of that, she started teaching other people how to be an entrepreneur. Her boss said, wow, Megan, I've noticed a real difference in your personality in the last year. You're becoming so much better. And that led to a 61% increase in her salary at her normal job. That wouldn't have happened if she had not started down the pathway by herself. And just as you said, action precedes motivation. I 100% believe that. You've got to get started, get off the sofa, and that's when a low-risk creative opportunity that you are passionate about it will present itself.
So is that what happened with your first business, like the camps? How did that happen?
No, it happened because I was fired from Coca-Cola and I had nothing to do and couldn't get a job.
So how'd you do it? How did you not have a job to turn it into a $12 million company?
Well, a little bit of luck and a whole lot of hard work. So the important thing is that there was a company that I copied. There was a company that operated out of Clark Crest Resort in Connecticut. And if you remember the movie Dirty Dancing with Patrick Swayze, imagine that resort aged 50 years. That's where my competitor operated, at a dump, an absolute dump. But he had a program very similar to mine. And I went there as a child, as a 10, 12, 11-year-old. I went to that program. And 10 years later, when I wanted to start a business, I basically copied, borrowed, and stole his idea. Of course, I didn't steal any trademarks, any copyrighted material. I was legal about it, but I took his idea and made it better. So his program was run at Clark Crest Resort in Connecticut, a total dump. I chose to run mine at MIT, Stanford, Georgetown, UCLA, SMU, Emory, McGill, Amherst, the University of Michigan, the best schools in the world. And so where would you rather send your child? To Clark Crest Resort in Connecticut or to Stanford or MIT for the summer? So it's a very important principle. I copied his business, but I just made it infinitely better. And so when it came time for me to start the business, I asked him about buying a franchise, and he came back with an astronomical price, which I couldn't afford. And so I called up MIT and Stanford and said, hey, can we run a summer program on your university? And both universities said yes, much to my shock. And we booked the weeks, and we were off and running. I started running ads, which I placed on my credit card. I paid for them with a credit card and paid for about $2,000 of ads, about $10,000 in Palo Alto and $10,000 in Massachusetts and Boston. And a week or two, a month later, people started sending in deposits. And I started buying more ads, and more deposits came in, and I started buying more ads. And I had a very simple philosophy. I didn't do anything until I absolutely needed to. So I literally did not create a checking account until I had a check in my hand to go deposit. And I created the checking account simply so I could go and deposit the check. And I didn't buy a business license until I needed to, and the only reason you need to buy a business license is so you can get a checking account. So I had a check in a hand for a business that did not exist. I walked in and got my business license, then went and got a checking account, and then cashed the check. And then I used that to buy more advertisements. We woke up one day and I had like 50 names of people who had expressed interest in the program. And I was like, well, darn it, I better create a brochure. And so I went and created a brochure so that I could mail something to the 50 people that I already had collected the names. And on and on and on like that. I didn't write my curriculum until I was on the way to Stanford driving cross country. I literally wrote the curriculum in the car as I drove cross country from Atlanta all the way to Northern California. We hired our employees 2 or 3 weeks before the program started. Nothing was done until it had to be done. And because of that, I didn't spend money until I had to. And in the end, this is very important. We did $56,000 in revenue. We spent exactly $56,000 in cost, made zero profit. But at the end of the first week, the people there, the campers, the parents, started asking about signing up for next summer. And so we started collecting deposits immediately for next summer, which I then rolled into an advertising budget for year 2. Year 2, we did $256,000 in revenue, made about $10,000, $20,000 in profit. And by year 7, we were at $12 million in revenue. So look at the growth curve on that. So literally started with $2,000 borrowed off of a credit card. It is the definitive bootstrap story.
It's an amazing story, and I think that what's very real about it and important that I want to highlight is, like you said, there's other people running businesses that you can certainly get ideas from and copy. Oscar Wilde said imitation is the greatest form of flattery. But I did appreciate the fact that you also brought up, as an ethical woman, you brought up the fact that it was legal and ethical. So it's one thing to copy someone's ideas. It's a good idea. It's quite another thing, I would think, as an entrepreneur, to go steal. Do you agree?
Of course, and I didn't do a single thing that was unethical. He never sued us. We competed in the open marketplace. The most important thing, though, is that everything he did, I did better. So he was at Clark Crest. I was at Stanford. He had no sponsors. We were sponsored by Intel and Microsoft and Lego.
How did you get those sponsors?
When you get one brand name to wrap yourself in, like MIT and Stanford, and then you have 100,000 kids coming through your program, 100,000 future thought leaders that we are going to brainwash for you, the sponsors rolled in, and we had Swatch and NASA and the London Times and George Lucas and EA Games and Hasbro and Mattel and Intel and Microsoft. So
and you were in your 20s during this time. You were in your 20s.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
What's even more unbelievable is that parents would come, drop their kids off with two 25-year-old kids and leave.
That is unbelievable.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. So I guess this is going to lead into our next segment. And so you had to have been riding high. I mean, things were going well for you. You had to have been pretty impressed with your own entrepreneurial style. I mean, you obviously had done something pretty incredible. And then, one of the things we're going to talk about is hardship. And I don't know the full story, but somewhere along here, some difficult things started happening to you. Is that right?
Bankrupt, divorced, and disabled all at the same time.
Okay. So is it true, just as a little teaser here, is it true that before the bankrupt, divorced, and that whole stage that you were pretty much, you had to have been feeling on top of the world?
Sure, I won the 40 Under 40 award. I was number one. I won Business Person of the Year in the city. We were on the Inc. 5000, the Inc. 50 list. Everything in the world was wonderful. Couldn't have been any better.
Okay, so we're going to take a break, but just imagine being on top of the world, being young, having your whole life in front of you, and then things start coming crashing down. What happens next? We'll be right back on Straight Talk with Sandra Reich.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reich. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reich, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
A fresh look at today's health. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reich.
Time is going a little too fast for my liking. Jim Beach has a fascinating story and talks about school for startups. He has an amazing radio show, by the way. You want to check that out. He's an entrepreneur. And we're just hearing about how he started his first business, was on top of his game, and then things start to go wrong. And I'm very curious, A, what happened, B, how you coped with it, C, and how you turned your lemons into lemonade. Take it away, Jim.
My goodness, there's a lot to tell. So one of the things that we had a big problem buying computers. Every year we needed thousands of new computers. And this was back in the age when a computer, the kind of computer we needed, cost $3,000-$4,000. So we would literally need $10 million of computers every year to run our program. And we found a man that you've all heard of, who I'm legally not allowed to mention, that said he could get us free computers. And he did. The problem was that they ended up not being free. And so we ended up several $1 million in debt. And
why weren't they free?
He lied to us. This is a man who's been on the cover of all the magazines that you've seen, who is just not an honest person. And he said that he would raise a bunch of money for us, venture capital, and we would literally walk into Vulcan Ventures, Paul Allen's venture fund in Seattle, without an appointment, and just walk in, and he would expect people to meet with us, which they would because he was powerful enough. And so we had an agreement where he would help us raise the money to grow the business. And I would turn on the TV and I would see a news report of him in Stade at the ski race, and then him in Le Mans for the Formula One, and then him dating a Academy Award winning actress. And I would call and say, well, I just spent $50,000 today because you told me to, and I need the money. Where is the money? And 2 years later, we ended up having to sue him and fire him. And at that point, I woke up and was $10 million in personal debt. Also at this time, I was going to the doctor because I was starting to get pains in my body. And one day I went to the doctor, Sandra, and the doctor came back in and said, well, I'm going to get you a hospital bed and put you in the hospital. You wait right here. And when he left the room, I put my clothes back on and snuck out the back door of the doctor's office because I was $10 million in debt. And so it took us about 2 years to recover from that and to raise the money. I was actually able to raise the money.
How?
And many of the I learned how to raise venture capital. I called all of the venture capitalists. And the interesting thing is when I got through to the man at Vulcan Ventures who I had met before, his first question was, have you gotten rid of that guy yet? He knew what was going to happen, but he couldn't tell me. He couldn't, besmirch this man's character. And once I said, oh, yeah, we are no longer in business with him, and I told him the story, he was like, well, great. We love your idea. We'd love to talk to you now that you're not in bed with that guy anymore.
Wow.
So the man who, promised to be our savior, in fact, turned out to be our Judas. And the reason we couldn't raise money was because of him and his horrible reputation. And so it was very difficult because the normal process is you go to a venture capitalist and say, you give me money and I'll go grow the business. We had done it backwards. We had grown the business, but now needed the money to pay off the debt. And so that put us in a very precarious situation. And people would offer us, we'll give you $5 million for 100% of the business because you are right now technically bankrupt. And so we were able to scrape our way through the 2 years. We did have to cut back significantly on growth, and we had to stop some of the initiatives that we were working on. But we did start an online school that sort of saved us for a while, and we were able to get some revenue coming in from that. And we had to negotiate with all of our vendors and say, look, I know I owe you $1.5 million. I'm going to pay you. I can go bankrupt now, in which case you'll get zero, or you can say, good luck, I hope you raise the money, in which case maybe a year from now I will end up paying you, which is what happened. Eventually our vendors ended up working with us and we were able to negotiate the debt. And by calling them on a weekly basis, we were able to eventually work a deal out where we paid them all off. Wow. And got out of the hole. By that time, I was so sick that I did end up in the hospital. I had a doctor tell me that I had a 10% chance of living through the night, that I was going to have surgery, emergency surgery on Valentine's Day of 2001. Ended up in the hospital for years after that on an ongoing on and off type basis with 3 chronic conditions, which I still enjoy having. Lost a wife in the process and was at one time technically bankrupt, paralyzed, and divorced, all within like 2 or 3 months.
How do you pull yourself out of that? You know, how do you do that?
Well, you have a choice. You can either kill yourself or keep moving forward. I mean, there's nothing else to do. Those are your 2 choices. You know, you can't not keep moving forward because they would put you in jail and the bankruptcy, you know, and you would end up destitute with no place to live. Or you kill yourself. I mean, those are literally your choices. Fight forward and keep moving ahead, or kill yourself. And I happen to believe that if you kill yourself, you go straight to hell with no purgatory. You know, I don't like that option. So I had no choice but to continue to fight forward. And it was the worst 3 years of my life. It was absolutely miserable and cost many friends, cost many business relationships, and cost my family. I did end up divorced, and my wife moved the kids to another state.
So I guess, you know, in getting to know you and having you on the show, I don't know if this fits into your description of an entrepreneur, but you are a fighter, Jim Beach. You're a fighter. You're a fighter.
I've never been punched in the face.
I don't mean it literally. But you're a fighter. You have
no choice.
Can we add that to the definition of what an entrepreneur needs to be? Is they need to be a fighter?
Yes, there needs to be some sort of personality element where they continue to persevere no matter what. That no matter how many girls say no to you, you keep asking new girls out on dates. No matter how many banks say no, you still go to the 812th bank. No matter how many venture capitalists say no, they're not going to give you money, you hang up and then call the next one on the list. And I had no choice but to do that. So, the only way that I survived was by just not letting the no's get me down. And the reason I was good at that was because I had asked 4,212 girls out and had 4,211 girls say no. So I'm very good at getting no's.
I don't really believe you, but okay. But I remember when you told me the story the first time, but that last girl said yes. Tell us the happy ending.
You only have to have one who says, yes, well, now I'm married with a beautiful wife and 4 beautiful children, and my children who moved away are, you know, some of my best friends, and, you know, we have an amazing relationship with all of us, including the ex-wife. You know, we all get along great. But it was, you know, 10 years of purgatory on earth, you know, absolute living hell every single day when you just didn't want to get up, but you had no choice. And, you know, it still isn't over. There are still horrible days for all of us. You know, I'm not going to say life is perfect and rosy and a bed of roses. There are still days when all of us have horrible things that happen, when we lose parents and have health issues of our own, and I still have health issues, and my wife and I have arguments, and the kids really upset me and disappoint me, and I personally fail to do what I had achieved or set, you know, goals for myself. Goals where I say today I'm going to do 10 things, and I end up doing 6 of them, or days when I end up doing 0 of them. You know, life is still about failing. It's just about, as an entrepreneur, saying I'm going to keep fighting and keep fighting and keep fighting. There's no other choice. There's
that fight word. I love it. So we started off the show talking about how being an entrepreneur is not really about creativity necessarily, risk and passion. So are we ending up saying, to a certain extent, it's about fighting, moving forward, finding meaning in the way your life twists and turns? I remember my dad telling me life doesn't actually turn out the way you decide it's going to turn out. There's twists and turns. What is your definition or your conclusion on what an entrepreneur is then?
Well, there are a lot of definitions that I have heard that I like. An entrepreneur is someone who solves problems on a limited budget. I think that's my favorite academic definition. In terms of a more colloquial definition, I love this one. An entrepreneur is someone who builds an airplane after they've jumped off the cliff.
I love it. That's great. Now, Jim, I understand also that you taught, right? You were a teacher, or are you a teacher?
I taught at Georgia State University, which is Atlanta's big downtown university, for 9 years.
Wow. Okay. And apparently you did some incredible experiment in your MBA class. We'll probably only get to start that before the break, but can you tell us a little bit about that and we'll continue after the break?
I told my class that I could start a business that semester, get it 100% cash flow positive that semester, repay all startup capital that semester, and they got to choose the country and the industry that I would start the business in.
Oh, no. What did they choose?
Pakistan and furniture.
No way.
Hey, would I lie to you, Sandra, about Pakistani furniture?
Oh, you're awesome. Okay, so Pakistani furniture, and you accepted this challenge from your class. Before the break, why would you do this to yourself, Jim? Why did you set out that challenge? What were you doing?
I was proving that you can start a business with no creativity, no risk, and no passion.
So you feel very passionate about not having passion, risk, and creativity.
I am very passionate about that.
Okay, so we're going to go to the break, and I cannot wait to hear what happened with Pakistan and furniture. We'll be right back with Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reish. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reish, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Your life, your health, your network. This is Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
I am having a fascinating conversation with Jim Beach. From the first time I spoke to him, I haven't stopped speaking to him. He's an interesting guy. So we're in the middle of a class experiment. Before we get to that, as always, I ask guests to give a gift on the show. And Jim has an incredible gift to offer people. Jim, what's your gift?
I actually have two gifts they can choose. If they email me at james.beach@att.net, I will give them my it's unpublished. It's yet to be published book on how to get on any radio show in the country, and it's a book. It's about 50 pages that tells you how to go out there and get free radio publicity, and so it's a methodology. I used it to get on 200 radio shows to promote my book, School for Startups, and so that's not yet published, but it's done. And they can have that. If they're in the entrepreneurship small business space, I will give them a list of hundreds of entrepreneurship radio shows, podcasts that they can get on, including the email address of the host or the producer, so that they can email those people and get on the radio shows and get tons. I'm talking $100,000 of free publicity.
Incredible. Thank you, Jim. That's so generous of you. And I think that you haven't talked much about that. I'm going back to your story in a moment, but again, we've had a bit of a few conversations. We have a business relationship, and I do think it's important to highlight, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I do think in my own little entrepreneur world, I think being generous is also part of the equation, is it not?
I don't think it has anything to do with entrepreneurship. It's just a basic tenet of life that the more you give, the more you get. And
okay, you got me scared there.
That's not an entrepreneurship thing. It's just a way of life, that, and certainly I have found that the more I give to people, the more I get in return. So,
well,
it's got nothing to do with entrepreneurship.
Well, okay, so I'll take that. Psychologically, it certainly fits with my way of thinking, and you're being generous with the listeners. You've been generous with me, and you said the more you give, the more you get. I couldn't agree more, and so therefore, I guess I would parlay that into a business as well. So good for you. Let's hear about Pakistan and furniture.
I won the bet.
You won the bet.
There to say.
Really?
Yeah, I did. And you go on my LinkedIn profile, and anyone go to Jim Beach, and I'll accept any LinkedIn profile connection request. I accept all requests. I'm a lion. But if you scroll to the very bottom, you'll see a company called Timeless Chair, and you will see some of the products that we did. It was, again, a non-creative idea. 10 years prior to the bet, I had been at a flea market in Santa Monica, and I saw a piece of luggage made out of carpet remnants. And when I was thinking about a business to start in Pakistan, I know that Pakistan is most famous for its oriental rugs, its kilim carpets, Persian rugs. And so I was like, well, let's start with that. And the class said furniture, not rugs. So I was like, well, what if we took a 100-year-old oriental rug and bought it at a flea market in Karachi, cut it up and used it as the fabric for a chair. And so that's exactly what we did. We would take American-looking chairs, American armchairs, like a Queen Anne armchair, take a 100-year-old rug, cut it up, and make that as the fabric. And I could get one of those imported into the United States, into Charleston, South Carolina, for about $420, $450, depending on the model. I would then sell that chair as a unique work of art. There was no other chair like that in the world. This was a 100-year-old kilim carpet, and I could sell the chair for $2,000 or $3,000 and sold many, many, many of them at that price. My number one customer was a Ritz-Carlton hotel chain in Aspen with a brown leather distressed sofa and a dry stacked stone fireplace, and this is the chair that would go next to it. One of my favorite stories is that one of my co-authors, David Beasley, was hired to write the autobiography of one of the Coca-Cola CEOs, and he would go over to the Coca-Cola CEO's house. And the CEO had a favorite chair, and it turned out that that was one of my chairs. That the CEO of Coca-Cola had bought, his interior decorator had bought one of the chairs. And again, go to my LinkedIn profile, Jim Beach, scroll to the very bottom, Timeless Chair, and you will see some of the pictures of some of the chairs that we built. Each one of them is absolutely gorgeous. They are individual works of art.
Wow. So you opened the business, you were successful at the business, and then got out of the business?
Actually, our factory was destroyed in the Lahore earthquake of 2006, and that sort of ended that. Okay.
So what are you up to these days?
I write radio, I write books. I have a new book coming out. I'd like to, if people are interested in the story I was telling earlier about the summer camp, that entire story has been acted out as a 36-part entrepreneurial thriller podcast. And if they go to schoolforstartupsradio.com, they can listen to the entire story in 36 chapters. That book will be coming out soon, so I'm working on that book. I have the radio book that I referred to earlier coming out, and another book also called Rock Stars in an Elevator. I do lots of public speaking, and of course I am an entrepreneur, and I have a dental business that I am launching here in the next week or so. The website is 99.9% done, and I'm starting a dentist-related business here in the next week or two as well.
Oh boy. Okay, so there's a new twist, a dental business. Why a dental business?
Because everyone has teeth, and so therefore I have lots of customers. And the dental business, the entire American healthcare system is broken. We all know this. Obamacare, the ACA isn't a solution. Trump is going to change things. And I think that there's a huge market opportunity for a cash-based system for healthcare. And so I hope to exploit that market niche here in the next year or two.
Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs?
No, not really. My father was a physician who ran his own practice, so very similar to what you do at your anxiety clinic. He ran a large practice of many, many doctors, and he was the chief negotiator, the deal maker for that.
Because you do have an extraordinary talent for seeing opportunities. It seems clear to me as you speak.
That's because I've been walking down the corridor of opportunity for 30 years now, and therefore I've been exposed to lots of rooms on the left and the right.
I love it. We're just about out of time, Jim. What's Rock Stars in an Elevator?
14 songs that create perfect elevator pitches or value propositions. So if you go to YouTube and Google Rock Star in an Elevator, you can see me talking about 14 songs, John Lennon's Imagine, some Johnny Cash songs, some REM songs, some Leonard Skinner songs, some Lady Gaga songs. Each one is the template for a perfect elevator pitch or value proposition. Check that out on YouTube. You can see me making that presentation.
I can't wait to see it. Jim, I feel very grateful that I've met you and that we've started a business relationship together. You're doing amazing stuff. What's the message you want to send out to people as we start to say goodbye to you today? What's the message?
Everyone needs to get off the sofa. Anyone can be an entrepreneur. There's nothing special about it. I think that entrepreneurs want to scare you away from being an entrepreneur by saying, oh, you have to take all this risk and I'm so creative. That's all a bunch of BS. They're just trying to protect you from the union. And, there is no union card for being an entrepreneur, so they're trying to scare you away. If you start with under $5,000, you limit your risk. Go find someone else's idea. Go to Entrepreneur Magazine or Inc. Magazine or listen to my radio show and copy someone else's idea and just execute it better in your market than they're doing it in their own market, and you'll be really successful. Get off the sofa and go get started.
Well,
just do it.
Just do it. You heard it from Jim Beach. Jim, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on Straight Talk. I really appreciate it. It's a fascinating talk with you.
I appreciate you having me. It's been my honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Finally, I'd like to thank all of you for listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish, and I'd like to invite you all to come back next week if you're interested in our retreats, therapy, media, anything Jim mentioned on this show or previous shows. Check out helpforanxietydepression.com. Also, to receive some amazing free gifts or hear previous shows, check out straighttalksandrareish.com. Add the /radio gifts to receive some amazing free gifts. And check out my Facebook page also, Straight Talk Sandra Reish, where you can leave a question for me or any of my guests. And while you're there, remember to like the page as well. You can hear this and any other prior show as a podcast on my website, straighttalksandrareish.com, on the podcast app of your iPhone, and on iTunes under Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. And please drop me a line, a question, or a comment at info@helpforanxiety.com. depression.com. If you're a professional and you're looking for keynote speakers or training on anxiety, depression, emotional regulation, or living a purposeful life, remember that I am your source for evidence-based practice and education. My name is Sandra Reish, and I promise I'll help you learn to live your best life again next Thursday, same time, same channel. In the meanwhile, this is Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Keep your eyes on the stars.
Thank you for listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. We hope you've enjoyed today's show, and we'll tune in again next Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. Now, go live your best life.